Hey, what is going on, everyone? And welcome to Total Life Fitness. I'm Luke Briggs, and I'm your host. So today we are going to get right into it. And we're talking about 3 critical fat loss mistakes that I see people make all the time. And these are going to be 3 mistakes that aren't talked about very often, but that actually make a difference. As someone who has been a coach here for 9 years and has coached 2,500 plus people over the years, I can tell you that most of the stuff out there isn't actually going to get you to where you want to go. Because a lot of things we'll talk about, well, how many sets and reps should you do? Or how much weight should you lift? Or what food should you eat? And not saying like none of those things matter, but in the grand scheme of things, like those things aren't going to matter nearly as much as the things that we're going to talk about today, because you need to have these things in place first, or otherwise those things aren't going to matter as much. So let's just dive right into it. So number 3 is my personal favorite. I will start with number 1. And one of the biggest mistakes that I see when it comes to fat loss is not creating structure every day of the week. Not creating structure every day of the week. So if you're compliant with your nutrition Monday through Thursday, but then you fall apart Friday night and into the weekend, that means that you are compliant 4 out of 7 days in the week. And 4 divided by 7 is 57%. So if you're compliant with your nutrition 57% of the time, you think you're going to be very successful with your fat loss? Probably not, right? So I know some of you are thinking, well, I'm compliant most of the day on Friday. But if you go way over on Friday night, you're still going to be over for your total daily intake. So you really need to make sure that you don't just wing it on the weekends. Like most people plan only for the work days, but they fail to plan for the weekends, their off days, trips, when they're going over to other people's houses. Like these are real life things that people don't factor in. And the fact of the matter is, life for most people isn't going to be you're just always at home in the perfect situation, right? We've got stuff going on, so you need to plan for these things. So the best ways that I've found to create structure on the weekends are, I know everyone's thinking like, oh, well, I don't want structure on the weekend, right? I've been so disciplined during the week, I want to let loose a little bit. And you certainly can. Like you certainly can have a little bit more flexibility on the weekend. When it comes down to it, you need to still reverse engineer your days. And I'll tell you what I mean by that. So let's say, for example, if you're going to go out on a Saturday night to a restaurant with friends and family or whoever, you just need to look at the menu ahead of time, what you're having. And then, if you use MyFitnessPal to track, like I have all my, a lot of my clients inside the Total Life Fitness Academy do, then what you need to do is just kind of reverse engineer your days. So basically, if you're going to a pizza joint or something like that, you just put in what you're going to have at that pizza place that night, and then reverse engineer what you need to have the rest of the day to hit your macro targets or hit your calorie targets. And that way it just makes it a lot easier. So the biggest thing is you need to plan. You need to plan on the weekends. Eat at about the same times. You can have different foods if you want, different meals, but just eat at about the same time so your schedule isn't completely thrown off. You feel like you're completely off on the weekends. So I know some of you might be saying, well, I got kids' activities, I'm all over the place on the weekends. It just comes down to planning. It just comes down to planning and making time for it. So again, if you're not losing fat, this is one of the first things I'd look at is, are you actually compliant each day, or are you missing at least 3 days out of the week? So that's number 1. Number 2 is waiting for the right time to start or restart. So I hear this all the time. Like I'll start with my diet or my workouts, or I'll get more, kind of hardcore with them when I have more time. I'll start when my kids go back to school. I'll start when I'm less busy at work. And in my experience, when someone says they're going to start something later, it really means never. So I think by now we should all realize like the right time doesn't exist. So you need to stop thinking of your fitness as an all or nothing thing, or like binary thinking, like black or white. I'm either on my diet or I'm off my diet. I'm either on my routine or I'm off my routine. Instead, you need to think of it as a continuum. To what degree am I off my diet? To what degree am I off my workouts? Because there's a big difference. Like if you're, this is why I hate like the screw it mentality when people are like, well, I'm already over my calories for the day, so I might as well just go way over, right? I hear that all the time. That's the equivalent to saying, if you're at the casino, well, I already lost $100 tonight, so I might as well just lose 1,000 more. No one would ever say that, right? Because that's still $1,000. It doesn't matter if it's all in one night. It's still another $1,000 that you lost. It's the same thing with calories. Like going over by 100 calories and going over by 2,000 calories is a big difference. Because if you just go over by a couple hundred calories, because you're still kind of tracking your portions, even if you're out eating somewhere, then you can always take those calories away the next couple days to make up for that deficit that week. But if you're like way over, it's going to be a lot harder to make that up. So again, don't think about it as you're either on or off. It's to what degree you're on or off. Just remember that. And remember that the right time doesn't exist. Doing something is better than nothing. Taking some form of action is better than nothing. And to be honest, I found that for most people, time isn't an issue. In fact, I have a client who's one of our testimonials. He has 6 kids between 1 and 11, and he owns his own business and manages like 5+ employees and has a household to manage. And he works out like 6 or 7 days a week and got really in good shape on our program. That's because he prioritizes it, right? Like he obviously has a very busy lifestyle, but he makes it a priority. So if you're constantly waiting for the right time to get back on track, quote unquote, the right time never exists. You just have to make time and reprioritize your time. There are probably a lot of things you're doing right now that you need to stop doing. Are you scrolling on social media throughout the day? Are you staying up and watching, an hour of TV before you go to bed? Not saying you can't do that, but maybe make it 30 minutes instead, or 20 minutes. Maybe you wake up and the first 30 minutes of the day, you're just kind of hitting snooze, or you're just kind of sitting scrolling on your phone. Like that is all time that you have to do other things. So you probably waste time during the day. Don't worry, I've struggled with all 3 of these as well. It's just a matter of not thinking of it as an all or nothing thing, but rather as a continuum. All right, so number 3 is my favorite because I see this all the time, and that is knowing versus doing. So the main thing that separates people who successfully transform their bodies and those who don't is one word: action. Action. So knowledge isn't power. Applied knowledge is power. So think about it. You don't get rich thinking about getting rich, right? You get rich for providing value to the marketplace and taking action. You don't get lean and toned just thinking about it. You get lean and toned from taking action. So I see this all the time, and I used to do this exact same thing. I would just be constantly researching, watching different YouTube videos, listening to different podcasts, reading different articles, reading different blogs, subscribing to different email newsletters. And I was constantly in the mode of consuming as much information as possible. Meanwhile, my body wasn't changing because I was constantly knowing everything, quote unquote, but I wasn't actually doing the right things. So think of it as taking imperfect action. Because I see people all the time who know everything about nutrition. They're always like, well, I already know how to lose 20 pounds, or I already know how to lose 30 pounds. I know what I need to do. I know. Then why haven't you done it? That's what I always say. Then why haven't you done it? Because until we've done it, maybe we don't know. Maybe we think we know, but we're not doing it because we're assuming that knowledge is the only thing that matters. Knowledge or the right skills are only a part of it. Having the right character traits, having the right mindset are equally, if not more important. But I see people all the time who don't know, quote unquote, that much, who change their bodies pretty rapidly because they do one thing, and that's take action. So hope one of these resonated with you. As always, feel free to reach out, shoot me a message, shoot me an email. Let me know. Everything is posted down in the show notes if you have any follow-up questions on this. But if you're doing one of these things, just take action. Just choose one thing to do that we talked about today, make a change, and that's the only way that you're going to see a difference with your fat loss efforts. So I hope this is helpful, and we will talk soon.